So, you have decided to come to Sweden. Welcome, or willkommen. As a traveling destination, Sweden is new and attractive. While we aren't as interesting as Iceland, as rich as Norway, as scary as Russia, or as depressed as Finland, we still have our own charm. As we say in Sweden, Sweden is a part of traveling destination in Europe as pieces of cabbage is part of a fine goulash. We aren't the pieces of meat, smetana or paprika. We aren't talked about, but yet we are a part of the whole. One of the essential attractions of Sweden is our nature. We have an endless field of spruces, a field of trees, which work as island between our modest cities. These aren't really forests, since they have been planted as this monoculture field, where the trees are the crops. There isn't a whim of diversity or nature friendliness in this concept, but the amount of trees is enormous. The Swedish relationship with forests is like the human rights situation in China. Just because there's a lot of people doesn't mean that there's any sense of well-being. But for tourists, these fields of trees really resemble actual nature enough that they can fill their phone with photos of them and they have a story to tell about the purity of the air. Sweden has been struggling with our relationship with nature. A good example of this is a children's animation from the 1970s. Welcome to the forest. Hello, I'm Boris the Birch. On this episode, we will take a look at the forest. We will see what is in the forest and what belongs to the forest. This here is a mushroom. Mushrooms belong to the forest. This here is a rabbit. Rabbit belongs to the forest. This here is a squirrel, the forest's own fluffy rat. Squirrel belongs to the forest. And this here is an oil barrel.
Oil barrel!
Oil barrel doesn't belong to the forest. It doesn't belong to the forest. So, today we have taken a look at what belongs to the forest. On the next week's episode, we will take a look at what fun activities you can do in the forest. Goodbye. Our circle of life is really based on a punctuated change of seasons. Summer is full of light, the nights are endless. Winter is long. It used to be controlled by barricades of snow, but nowadays the Swedes are doomed to spend 4 months of skating their way in this grey slush. This contrast between the seasons have made a basis for culture, which is really visible with Swedish music. So, here we have 2 pieces of music. Try to guess which was composed in the winter, which was composed in the summer.
Ulala, hoppsasa, den här likar sommartiderna. Ulala, hoppsasa, den här likar sommartiderna.
Swedish people have really crawled their way into making big hits in the US. I can guarantee you that the US charts will involve multiple Swedish composers at any given time. This is owed to a Swedish innovation called hit raka, or hit racket. This is a phenomena where the grinds of switching seasons have turned a Swede into a thin layer of wavering existence, where only way of surviving this world is based on composing songs with the little that is left. This leaves the composer to work only with a few notes, making a great basis for a top 10 hit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Come on.
Now that you are really considering Sweden as a traveling destination, it is time to talk about the food culture in Sweden. Swedish people could never come up with brie cheese or eating frog legs. With food, we are really too functional. We are afraid of anything new. In our history, anything new has always meant conquerors, be that the Romans, Vikings or Russians. So we eat what we have always eaten, which is moose soup. Dining with moose is easy and functional. You shoot a moose, rip the head out and you can make a soup easily for 40 people. 40 people is neatly the right amount of people you need for lumbering work. And what we really love, a deep cut of Swedish culture, is doing the lumbering work in the winter. In our history, woodcutting has been the only place where Swedish people can talk about emotions. The current emotional culture is in straight continuum from giving people directions on how to cut down a tree. The directions are given by yelling, which has taken shape as unsolicited advice with how our neighbors are supposed to do their gardening. A real test is how one fills their wheelbarrow. If you want the respect of the former generations, you know that you should put the weight in front of the wheel. This is the most efficient way of doing this, and efficiency is something we love more than anything. Coffee plays a big part in Swedish culture. This of course stems from the long and dark winter. But while the European coffee culture could be seen in the light of Italian coffee culture or French coffee culture, cross-faded with some Belgian waffles, Sweden has a different approach when it comes to coffee. For us, coffee is consumed in volume, and no attention is paid for the taste. This is weighed in the coffee rooms of our workplaces. If a colleague asks you how you like your coffee, you have to be cautious. If you answer by saying you like a cappuccino with a double espresso and a splash of oat milk, the mood shifts. Your colleague will go, "Ooh la la, I didn't know we hired a prince to work in our firm. I'm sure I'll get you a salted caramel frappu mochaccino vanilla swirl macchiato cortado next time." In Sweden we also have little something for the kids. This is called a moomin, which is a grey hippo with a taste of 70s hippie philosophy. Moomins don't work or fight. Swedish government really did a mistake when they based their domestic policy on moomin, but that's another story. Lastly, I need to mention a big part of Swedish culture, which is anxiety. We are situated in a far corner of Europe with harsh winter conditions, so naturally being anxious and depressed is the initial state of being. This is really not something we think about too much, because it is overall an adapted way of being. But for a depressed person, Sweden could be your new home. In a place where depression and anxiety is caused by outside factors, being your authentic self could be easy. If you spend your life on an Indonesian beach with surfers and coconuts, being depressed is something weird. In Sweden, it's natural. So if you feel depressed, Sweden is the place to be. Las Vegas has gambling, Italy has the cuisine. We have horrible weather condition and an overall bad attitude. Sweden is the Las Vegas of feeling down. So, welcome.